Hey, what's up, guys? It's Logan Christopher with the Legendary Strength Podcast. Going to be having a fun episode today where I'm going to be talking about Deceptive Strength, my new book, and really give you some of the ideas of what's in it, how it came back, and all that. But before we get into that, it's my birthday, so happy birthday to me as of when I'm recording this on the 13th. As part of what I do for my birthday, one, I like to buy myself some things. So there's two new additions to what I've been doing lately that I'll be talking about. One is actually you may hear this slightly if you hear a sort of a humming in the background. This is because I am walking on a treadmill. Now, I didn't buy myself a treadmill, but what I bought was a treadmill desk. I'm not a huge fan of treadmills as far as exercising, but I'm tired of sitting on my butt all day long as I work in the office, in my home office, delivering all this information to you, so I decided to mix it up. I've been hearing about this whole lot. In the future, I will be writing an article about the benefits and my experience with all this, so be sure to look for that coming soon. Also, just the other day, I went to my local sporting goods store. My plan was just to buy a couple more 45-pound plates because I've been doing some weightlifting exercises in the gym where I required more weight. I'd basically maxed out all the weight that I was using for some partial lifts and that sort of thing. What I wanted really was 100-pound plates, but I didn't expect those to have the locally. I was just going to buy some more 45s, but they actually happen to have 50 kilogram. That's 110-pound plates there. So I happily snapped those up. They're rusty, they're used, but that also means they're quite a bit cheaper than what I was looking to spend on some plates, and I've been using those. I just got one workout in. It's really cool when you have a new piece of equipment. It's well, if it's something that's completely new, then of course you're going to set PRs because it can be in movements that you've never done before. But just sort of the excitement of having these weights, I knew I'd be able to set more. I'd max out on the rack pull before with the weights I had, so I knew I'd be able to go further with it. And I went up to 815 pounds, once again, maxing out the weights I had. I think I'll actually have a video up of that within a couple days as of when this podcast goes out, showing you that it's really cool. And now that I'm at 815, even though I'm not going to buy more plates, I figure I can actually hang some kettlebells from that. I want to break 1,000 pounds in this lift. So part of it was just having the newness of being able to do that. But even after this, after I've maxed out on a rack pull, I went and did the Jefferson deadlift, and although I didn't require these new weight plates, I had them on the bar and I was able to hit 465 pounds, which is an all-time PR in that variation of the deadlift, which is really cool. So I'm working back up to my previous best of 505, and then once I hit that, I'll just be moving beyond it. Once again, in case you aren't aware of all my goals, I want to get up to 605 sometime this year. That's pretty significant amount of gain, over 100 pounds off of a previous best, so I'm still building up to that, but getting closer and closer. We'll see just how close I get, or if I can accomplish it in that time. I believe I can, because deadlifts are something I love doing. I really enjoy doing them. Got a lot of variations. Using biofeedback, I'm able to go really far with those. So that's kind of the new stuff. And along with that, on my birthday, I decided to launch my new book. I want to give you a little bit of a backstory in this. The name of the book is Deceptive Strength, Becoming Strong While Staying Small. The idea of deceptive strength, I forget exactly when that came about. I think it was actually, I could be wrong, but it may have been at when we did the workshop with Dennis Rogers a couple years back, maybe a year and a half back. Anyway, the idea of deceptive strength, I believe I had it before that time now that I think about it, was that you don't look, or I don't look personally, like I'm as strong as I actually happen to be. And the reason for this is that the public are ignorant of what true strength really is. When I first started training, the only thing I was exposed to was bodybuilding. That's how most people think about strength. That's all there is out there. Nowadays, there's a little bit more with, CrossFit is definitely huge, and that is helping to spread more effective training. Yes, there's problems with CrossFit, but there's an idea beyond just, you need to get bloated muscles and you're strong. But that idea is still very pervasive out there, that big muscles means you're strong, and that if you don't have big muscles, then you can't be strong. But this is a fallacy. Muscular size, it's correlated with strength, but it's not causative. It's not exactly equal. Just because you have big muscles doesn't mean you're that strong. We've all heard of plenty of bodybuilders that do nothing but like pumping exercises. They can grow up their muscular tissue, but it won't necessarily be very strong. Now, there are definitely some very strong bodybuilders out there. I don't want to completely say that, bodybuilding's worthless. It's not at all. But the idea that strength and muscle are one and the same is just, it's not true. There are several different ways that you can be much stronger than what your muscles look like they can do. That's only one facet of strength. Just because the size of a muscle means there's more or stronger or bigger contractile proteins that allow you to contract harder against whatever resistance you're working on. But the truth is, there's so much more going on. The nervous system is going to be sending those signals that get those muscle fibers to contract. So if you just strengthen your nervous system, strengthen that neural wiring from your brain through your nervous system to those muscles, you're going to be stronger because you're able to do that. Even with the same amount of muscle fibers, if you can actually just contract more of them, because the truth is, not all of your muscle fibers contract at any one time. If they did, they'd be so strong. People that have been struck by lightning have in fact had their bones broken because their muscles contracted with such force because of that electricity, which is, that's part of what our nervous system runs off of. But that lightning strike would cause their muscles to contract so hard their bones would snap. We've all heard stories of little old ladies lifting cars off of family members in order to survive them, or to help them so that they survive. And, there's probably some mythological proportions to these stories, but there's a bunch of them, and people in those sort of situations have much more strength than they normally would have. It's because all the inhibitions have come off. The nervous system actually allows the body to fire much more of the strength that it has. This is one of the reasons I've gotten so far into the mental and energetic training, because if we have all this strength available, it's just a matter not of growing strength, not of just growing our muscle so we can be stronger, but unlocking what is really already there so that we're better able to use it. Now, of course, this must be done in a safe manner. You can learn how to shut down those sort of inhibitions your mind and your body has on itself in order to get stronger, but there can be a cost at doing that. What many people don't know is that when people do these Herculean feats of strength after, not training for it, just, in a life or death situation, a lot of times they end up injured afterwards because things break down. It's because our body is trying to protect us and not allowing us to exert all of our strength at once. So anyway, back to the whole idea of deceptive strength. In performing different strongman shows and just showing off even on the internet, I don't look that strong. I would always hear that statement: you don't look that strong. You don't look like you should be able to do the things that you do, bending horseshoes, ripping phone books, lifting all different sorts of weights, the bodyweight exercises. And bodyweight's a little bit different because that's sort of the realm of the circus performer and gymnast, where often those guys are really small. But the whole weightlifting and especially the grip strength, see, that is the flawed perception people have out there, that you need big muscles in order to do this. And as I've already said, muscular strength is such a small part of everything that is going on. The nervous system, as we already said, is a huge part of it. Just your mind power, which is going to be driving the nervous system, which is driving the muscular power as well. Such a huge part in it. You also got tendon, ligament, bone strength, which is a huge part, especially for the grip feats. You don't have a lot of muscle in your hands and forearms. Sure, there's some there, and it does play a part, but really more of the strength comes from the tendons and the ligaments in being able to perform these feats of strength. So when someone says you don't look that strong, what are they saying? How does someone look strong? It's because they have big muscles. That's really the only way you can look strong. Or I guess if you're just big in general, which just like a huge fat guy doesn't necessarily look strong, but just bigger people in general look stronger because they're going to have some more muscle mass than other people. So a huge stocky fellow, there's muscle mass there, even if they're not like cut up like a bodybuilder is. You just need to be big in order to look strong. That's why I really like the cover for Deceptive Strength. If you haven't seen that, just head to my website, legendarystrength.com, and look around. You'll find the book there. I have a art guy that does my covers and other stuff along those lines, and he always surprises me with the ideas that he has. So usually I just say, hey, I need a cover for this, come up with something. Most of the time it's really awesome and I'm quite happy with it. This one I decided to use a picture of a 505 deadlift, my record deadlift, holding that on the front. And what he did was take that, and I'm not very big. I'm 6'2", 185. That's one thing on the internet. People see my videos, you really can't tell height and size and weight, all that, from videos. And a lot of times people are surprised when they meet me, or I meet other people, they just don't look like they do in the videos, because it all depends on how it comes across. So anyway, with this picture, you got the 505 deadlift, and there's a shadow behind of it's basically the shadow of a bodybuilder, like a huge muscular person right behind. And that's sort of the idea. You have all this strength, but the appearance of that strength isn't necessarily there. Now, that's not to say that I look like I'm weak. My genetic build is certainly to be along the smaller lines, and we'll talk a little bit about genetics. But I don't look like a weak person, If I never got into this whole strength training and fitness thing, I would probably weigh around 150 pounds. I would be extremely skinny. So yes, I put on muscle mass by doing it, but part of it comes from my genetics. I'm not going to deny that, but a lot of it has to do with how I train, and that's what I lay out in this book. I give 25 key concepts that all help you along these lines. Now, it's kind of a funny thing to write a book about this, because there's not that many people that are interested. Most people who get into training do it for two reasons. One is to lose weight. That's by far the biggest, and that's not what I specialize in, though certainly give some ideas here and there. It's really fairly simple. It can be complex in certain ways, but if you do the right things, losing weight's not too hard. Other people want to put on muscular size. Really, the whole strength component isn't done as much, but for me, that's the most fun, and there's a certain number of other people out there who also enjoy it as well. So certain people, can be a big component in some sports where they have weight classes, where of course you want to be as strong as possible. That can help you in your sport, like wrestling, different martial arts, certainly, but even other sports as well, where there may be some weight classes. You want to stay at a certain weight class, so you can't be adding muscle size. And getting much stronger is certainly going to help with. So that can be a big part of it. For me, it's more really just a matter of, I don't want to look that big. It's really just not my goal at all. At some point, sometime, depending on my goals, like right now I'm working toward a 605 pound deadlift. Adding muscle mass would certainly make that easier to do, but I'm not going to go up to 250 pounds in order to be able to do it. I might approach closer to 200 while I'm doing this, but really I could stay about my same size and just build up my strength to do it. So certainly adding muscle mass can help, and it really depends on your goals. But this book is all about, for people that aren't concerned with that or really don't want to add muscle mass, what are the steps you need to do in order to do it. So I want to talk about one of the key concepts in here. This is the key concept number 2. In your training, focus on performance, not on the scale or muscle measurements. So this is something we've been talking about here. That is my number one focus when I'm training. What can I do? How much weight can I lift? How many reps can I do it for? What bodyweight exercises can I do? What feats of strength can I do? These are all performance-based goals. The funny thing is, back when I was in high school and I got started with strength training, you can't really call it that, when I did bodybuilding, because I didn't know anything else was out there. That's all I was exposed to, so I was literally doing routines out of bodybuilding magazines. I did play football too, and we did some sort of powerlifting, but Our strength coaches weren't the best in the world. So I did have, I guess, some other exposure, but really my goal during that time, because I was so scrawny, I weighed less than 100 pounds when I entered high school, was to look a little better. Because it's funny uh, if I look back at some pictures of me then, it's like, wow, I really was very skinny back then. The term beanpole would apply to me. So part of my goal, I mean, back then I wasn't really into the whole strength thing. I was just training in order to look better. And you know what? It didn't really work. I was doing all this stuff, and granted, my training was not the most effective training out there, but I wasn't getting that sort of result that I wanted. Fast forward a little bit, and I get into doing bodyweight exercises. And with this, I was actually aiming toward performance-based goals. Being able to do 100 reps of a Hindu push-up, for instance. I remember one of my first big goals was to be able to work up to a handstand push-up, just touching my head to the ground and pushing back up. I couldn't even come close to doing this. If I unlocked my arms, I would come tumbling down. That's how weak I was when I started out. So I had these performance-based goals, and you know what? When I had these performance-based goals, the body took care of itself. I added weight without even focusing on that. I don't remember when I was at what weight, but I've been around 180, 185 for the past, quite a few years, just floating up and down around that level, because once again, my training is focused on performance, and the scale takes care of itself, the muscle mass takes care of itself. If I wanted to add more, I would change my training in order to reflect that. That's what I do in this book here. I talk about, okay, what does it take in order to gain muscle mass? And we're going to do the opposite. So we're reverse engineering what it takes to become bigger in order to not become bigger. And there are certain factors how you play with your training in order to achieve one goal over another. So let's move on to another key concept in there, and this one has to do with genetics, which I do discuss in the book. This is number 4. What you do is far more important than what you were born with. Now, if you have a goal to become, the best bodybuilder in the world, world champion at that, with something like that, genetics are going to play a big role. Because, let's face it, with such an elite level of competition where there are so many people focused on it, you have to be born with certain qualities in order to be able to compete there. Not everyone's muscles are going to look great despite how big they are. That's going to be a very important component of that competition. So in that regard, what you're born with is very important. Can you, no matter what your body type or anything, work really hard and become a great bodybuilder on some level of competition? Absolutely. But to be the best at something like this, may not work so well. So what I mean with this statement, what you do is far more important than what you were born with, was you can't control what you were born with. So why focus on that at all? There's this whole fallacy of genetic determinism where people will say, oh, it's no use. This goes along with health issues as well. Oh, my whole family has cancer, so I'm going to have it as well. Okay, you may have a genetic predisposition to cancer, but what you can do with your life is so much more. There are so many factors, what you can do with nutrition, lifestyle, and everything that will impact your health on that level and make it so you don't get cancer. There's so many things you can do. Yes, genetics do play a role, but because we can't control it, why even focus on that aspect? Instead, focus on every single thing you can do that is within your control. That's what this is about. So, yes, I was born skinny, so staying at a small size, despite getting much, much stronger and, continuing to increase in my strength, it's not a genetic predisposition for me to be able to add muscle mass easily. So everything I'm doing here falls in line with my genetic capabilities. But if you were someone that does add muscle mass easily and you don't want to, by following these same things that I outline in the book, these same different rules, you're going to be able to get results along those same lines. I believe, genetics is one factor, but part of the reason I don't add size is because of all the training that I do and how I do it. If I wanted to add size, I would have to change up my training in some regards in order to be able to do that. And that would be going against my genetics because I'm genetically predisposed to staying small, but it can be done. So if you're genetically predisposed to being big, by following these same steps, you can keep your size down. It really can be that simple. So, because we don't control what we're born with, don't focus on that at all. Focus on what you can control with. Even if this isn't true, even if you are still going to get cancer or you can't possibly lose the weight because you're born into a big family, by having this belief that there is something within your control that you can do about it, you're going to be able to get greater results. Just believing it, you're going to actually then take action rather than giving up before you've even started. Moving on, number 10, this is something we already discussed a little bit. Increase your neural wiring and mind power to become stronger. As already stated, muscle size is a factor in strength, but not even the most important factor, and there's several other factors. Here's a couple of them: the neural wiring and the mind power. It might be hard to, what is the exact distinction in this? One way you could look at this is, for instance, in the skill of a movement. Every exercise takes skill, some of them more than another. For instance, the bench press. There's a good amount of skill involved in that. A lot of people don't think it is. It's just like a brute strength, but if you look at the technique of someone who competes in that versus your average gym goer, you'll see very different techniques. And part of that is being able to, just learning what the right technique is, but there is skill in how you apply your power in that movement. If you take something like a handstand pushup, a freestanding one, a lot more skill in that movement. It's less strength focused and more skill focused. In any sort of skill, what's happening in your body, and a great book to read on this is The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. He talks about the myelin being built up. Myelin is a protein that basically encapsulates the nerve fibers when you practice a skill, and it makes them become better conductors for that nervous message. This is the same sort of thing that happens with musicians being able to play at levels so far beyond the average person, is they are encoding within their nervous system the ability to be able to do it better and better, and the body is laying down myelin in order to be able to do that. The same thing happens with strength. The more you practice an exercise, assuming that you're practicing in such a way where your skill is growing, the better you're going to be able to fire that nervous wiring in order to be able to get that. Now, that's sort of the whole neural wiring aspect of this. The mind power, and the mind is so huge. Just some of the techniques I've come up with based on my studies of neuro-linguistic programming. We actually got a great interview coming up next week with Garen Bader talking about concepts of the core force energy and how just accessing different sounds, different mental images and all that allows you to access more of your body's power, more of the mind power, all tied in there. And I've seen people literally double their strength or be able to go from something they couldn't do that was impossible for them in the moment to being able to do it, and actually usually quite easily, and sometimes, able to do it but struggling in order to be able to do it. And all it takes is actually some sort of mental shift in order to get there. How does this work? This is because, once again, we have all this strength. It's just a matter of activating it within our body. And by changing how we think, oftentimes that's all that is needed to instantly become stronger. Now, is some sort of progressive training needed? Absolutely. That's a lot of fun. And it can also be a place for you to experiment and practice with these different mental or energetic training drills. So this is a huge part. If you want to get stronger, you don't need more muscle. That's low on the list of importance. But you learn how to use your mind. You learn how to use your body, everything behind it. You practice the skills of the movement. You can get much stronger very, very easily. So this is huge. If you want to get stronger, you're going to learn some cool stuff in this book. Even if you don't want to stay at a smaller size. I mean, if you're looking to gain mass, just because we reverse engineer, you can do opposite of some of these things and you can gain it. But there's some very cool stuff in this book. It's probably actually one of my biggest books yet. It just kept growing in size because there's more I had to add to it. Whole bunch of exercises. I cover bodyweight exercises, kettlebells, barbells, grip training, stuff like partials, supports, which are huge, important things for becoming really strong. And it depends on how you use them. Supports aren't really going to add size, but partials can do that depending on how you use them. You got to look at some of the other factors. Just some other key concepts. Every workout is full body. You really got to read the sections having to do with all these to get all the, in general, lift fast with most of what you do. That's rule number 18. So a whole bunch in here. Right now, it is Tuesday as of when I'm releasing this podcast. Through this weekend, there are the big bonus package that comes with the book. You can get the physical book or the ebook. You get the 5 different bonuses that come with it, a video on 14 deadlift variations and how to do them. One of the huge factors in how I'm able to increase any lift that I'm going after is I always play with different variations. Different variations allow you to attack different components. Certain ones of them will help you with the weaknesses in whatever the movement happens to be. For instance, those rack pulls, that's going to make any other deadlift feel lighter. It's also going to really help, especially at the lockout component of your deadlift. Bonus number 2 is the shovel lift. I put out a video just showing that. It's one of my new favorite lifts. This video shows all sorts of different ways you can do the shovel lift, including like thick bar work, different positioning for your hands, doing a high rep, low rep, different variations of the exercise. That's also included in the book, but I put together this video because really sort of needs to be seen in action, and I love a lot of fun with that. I've decided to include a hypnotic track. I mean, this goes along with the whole mental power thing. That's funny, actually, before setting this rack pull PR as well as the Jefferson deadlift PR that I did right after it, I was in a sort of a study group for neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis, and a guy there led me through hypnosis focused on this goal, and there's some cool stuff I'm going to play with that and have to share with later, but I think that was actually one of the components that helped me to set these PRs quite easily. I was being led through hypnosis, which activated more of my power in that moment that I was able to apply later in order to be able to achieve that goals. So you're getting this is a great hypnosis that has anchors, visualization, a whole bunch of things in it that can really set you up to become much stronger when you need to be stronger at any time. All you have to do is say a command to yourself, and it's going to access more of that power you have within inside. Bonus number 4 is my Cardio Without Cardio ebook. This is just a short book I put together talking about why so many people are doing aerobic exercising wrong. You probably know a lot of this stuff, but the focus on the anaerobic, which goes along with the deceptive strength type stuff. Conditioning is an important part of that. Actually, all the attributes of fitness are important, not just strength, and I talk about that in the book. And bonus number 5, how to become a physical culture renaissance man. This really does go quite well along with deceptive strength, in that part of what I do is to do a wide variety of different things, and that's where the term physical culture renaissance man comes from. That was actually coined and given to me first by Jeff Newport. He came up with that, and I really liked it, so I've sort of taken it and run with it. This idea is that you can do a whole bunch of different things, and in this ebook, The Physical Culture Renaissance Man, you're going to learn how to put it all together, because that's another common question. So I get the question, how are you so strong without being so big? And then also, how do you do all the different things that you do? So in this book is my answer to that. So you get all 5 of these bonuses, and you can pick up Deceptive Strength at legendarystrength.com/deceptive-strength. Or if you just go to the website and look around, you'll be able to find it quite easily on there. So very cool stuff, available in an ebook format and physical book, so you can have it sent to you, shipped to you. I personally prefer to have a hardcover book in my hand, but not everyone's like me, so I want to make that available for everyone. If you have any questions specifically on this stuff, be sure to ask me. Besides that, that's going to wrap it up for us today. As I mentioned, got a great interview with Garen Bader coming up. Also down the line, interview with Elliot Hulse, which I'm really excited about, and even more cool stuff coming at you in the future. Thanks for listening. Be sure to head to iTunes if you would do me a favor and go ahead and rate my podcast. Also, you can just send me an email. Logan at legendarystrength.com. I'd love to hear your feedback on this. Been doing it for a while now. I think we're up to episode 30 or so. Planning on keeping it going, but I'd love to hear your feedback on it. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.